everyone, welcome to Pro Volley USA. I'm here with Kara Bajema, and this week we are talking about the transition from college volleyball to professional. Kara is a first-team All-American from the University of Washington. She is the Pacific Northwest Region Player of the Year, and she is currently with the women's national team playing in VNL. And Kara, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
So we're just gonna jump right in. We're gonna pick your brain a little bit, talk about your experience and your transition into professional volleyball, and more specifically into your first year, because you've been playing for 2 years now, right?
Yep, 2 years.
And which leagues have you played for?
I was in Italy for my first one and then Poland.
We're gonna start at the very beginning. So you're graduating, you've played your final senior season in volleyball, and you are selecting your agent. Mm-hmm. So kind of talk about the process with that. Are you researching agents? Are agents reaching out to you? And what was that process like?
Yeah. So I honestly had zero clue going into this, like what it was going to look like. And I know there are rules too. I don't know if rules have changed like so much with what you can communicate and what you can't communicate with people outside of like NCAA rules. But
you would get like random DMs. And
yes,
you'd be
random
like, can
DMs.
I respond to that?
Right. And so there were like a couple agents that had reached out, and so I heard of some of the agencies before, not really, but I remember after the banquet, after like the All-American banquet, I had a couple there that came up to me, and I was just talking to them like, you don't know any better.
Yeah.
I was like, sure, I'll give you a conversation. And then eventually the agent that I have now reached out to me, and or he was like, I'll give you like the list of players I have. And I was like, to me that kind of like made sense, because I was like, let's see what kind of people you have in there. So once he gave me that list, I gave him like a couple phone calls, and we kind of just like hit it off. But like,
and did you talk to other agents before?
I think I only had 2 phone calls with 2 other agencies, to be honest. There was a lot that like reached out through like Facebook Messenger or something, but I just kind of didn't give them the time of day. I kind of like liked my agent from the get-go, so it was just kind of flowed.
Yeah.
But it's hard to know.
No, it is, for sure. And which were you looking at specific qualities in your agent? Or what made you like your agent?
Yeah. Well, I remember having a conversation with my college coach, because I was just like, how are you supposed to know like what agent is good and stuff like that? But I was definitely looking for how many like outsides he had. Yeah. I know specifically he told me too, like he's like, I only take like 1 to 2 outsides a year. So I know he was looking at another outside in my class, and he but he was like, we're not going with her, that's why we were reaching out to you, sort of thing. And so that was nice, because you don't want an agent like competing with the same position as you, because then technically they're trying to find jobs, and then it can get a little tricky. It happens, some people do take a lot, but I think the number one thing for me was that he didn't take a lot of people. So he could work really hard for me.
So going through this process and kind of looking back at your experience, it seems like you hit it off with your agent, it worked really well for you, but do you have any advice to people that are going into professional volleyball this next season, or they're graduating, and any advice for them in picking their agent?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say have conversations with them. Like if people are reaching out to you, do your research and see like who they're representing. And then I also dropped into a lot of DMs when I forgot to mention this, but like when he gave me the list, I dropped into like 3 or 4 people, just like being like, how do you like him? How does he work for you? Does he work hard? Like stuff like that. And they all gave me great things, so that kind of validated my thing too. So honestly, my biggest piece of advice would be like, don't be afraid to like drop into a DM or 2, because I did that quite often, honestly, and it really, really helped.
Okay, so you've picked your agent, you're done with college, you're going into professional volleyball, and luckily now you have options to play for Athletes Unlimited here in the United States, and there's also hopefully going to be LOBB, but most of the time these college girls are going overseas. So your agent's communicating with these leagues. What qualities are you looking for when you were choosing your first professional league?
Yeah, so it all kind of happened pretty suddenly. Like once you pick your agent, it's like then it's kind of up to them to just go out and do the work, and you sit back for a bit, and then they'll come back to you with offers that they found, and then it's kind of on you again to like see the offer. Is this like a place you see yourself being? And first year, it's like when it comes to agents, when it comes to the countries you're in, you're just like, how am I supposed to know? It's like literally the question I was asking literally everybody. I was like, how am I supposed to know what like is a good option for me? But I did know that I really did want to play in Italy, and he did have some options come up. So when options in Italy for me came up, I kind of pushed all the other ones to the side, because I was like, this is what I want my focus to be for year 1. And then it just kind of went into like me finding some research and on my own.
So Italy's one of the best countries in the world for volleyball, especially professionally. So that was probably something that went into it. Salary was probably something that went into it. What other qualities were you looking for when you're choosing?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's hard to know, but like I ideally, like, you'd love to be in a great city or one that's near
like
good,
a quality of life
city where even if you're not in one, near one. And the tricky part about my first year was that it was COVID year. It was like the beginning of it all, and Italy was really like hit hard, and so they were really locked down. So I was near Milan-ish. I was near like some bigger cities, and so I could have, but technically I wasn't able to travel as much. But my city was not my favorite, so that made it really difficult. So now when I look into the future things, I like want to make sure the city that I'm in, like, I don't have to drive an hour, I don't have to drive 45 minutes, like I can get the things I need out of a city. So I was definitely looking for that, and the rest you kind of just like wing it because you just don't really know what you're looking for.
Your first season was in Italy, one of the best leagues. You're going from college in Washington playing in the Pac-12, and now you're in Italy playing with foreign players. So what was the hardest skill that you found adjusting to? Was it passing? Was it the ball? Was it the level of play? What were the different things that you found the hardest?
Yeah, I mean, being thrown into one of the best leagues is honestly, I felt like was the best thing for me. I just was like, wow, this is so cool. It goes from like really high level of college, but then it just takes like another level up, and you're just like playing with Olympians like almost every day against the court, and it's pretty cool. And so I think the hardest skill for me was adjusting to the speed of serve. Like, just everybody's quality of serve was so good. So passing was difficult, and then also just the speed. Like, the speed of play was really fast, and something that I noticed, and I was like, thank goodness I'm not a middle, because holy cow. But yeah, I was like, it was so fun though. It was just like good quality volleyball all the time. So it was, I think the speed of serve, quality of serve, and the speed of the game.
Yep. Talk about the Mikasa ball a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, college players are playing with the blue and white molten ball. From my experience, being here for the last few weeks, I am still not used to this Mikasa ball. It floats a lot more. It's a lot lighter. Did you find any challenges with this new ball?
Yeah, so Mikasa is the blue and yellow, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so Italy is red, green, and white.
Okay, so that's a totally different ball.
Another one, and they're the only country that does that one, which is super bizarre. But so I was adjusting to that one, which I don't actually mind that ball. I'm not really a ball person, so honestly, I don't know the difference that much. But it'd be interesting to like go into a practice now with the ball that Italy uses and see if the passing's different. But now I've been on blue and yellow forever that it's like, now I kind of forget.
That's so funny, because for me, like, the ball is so different. I mean, the touch and passing, and that's such a nice thing, because you're probably just going into each practice and each mindset, and you're like, it's the same thing.
Yeah,
so,
maybe I should think about it.
No, you shouldn't. You shouldn't. Based on like your peers and the people that you've been around, I've heard all different stories, whether they've had a horror story playing overseas or it's been the best experience of their life. So kind of compare your experience and your transition to your peers, and how do you think that you compare with them?
Yeah. Well, my first year, I would put it up there with one of the worst years I've had. But I think a lot.
Can you tell why that was?
Yeah, I think it had to do with the fact that I was so isolated. I was isolated with COVID, and then on top of that, hardly anybody on my team spoke English. My coach coached the whole practice in Italian, and so I couldn't communicate with my coach.
He didn't speak any English?
Like couple words. So I had to quickly learn a lot of volleyball terms when it came to like the language. I tried to learn the language a little bit, but honestly, it's funny, like I would go home and I didn't want to hear one word of Italian. Like I literally just didn't want to hear anything, so therefore I didn't learn that much. I only learned like the things I heard every single day.
Yeah. Like what?
But like just like ball terms, volleyball, like lines and everything. But like my roommate that year was the best speaking English person on the team, which was really helpful, because if I didn't have her, like I would literally be like, I would have probably been so sad. I probably would have cried every single day. It's the language. It literally just makes you feel like you're just isolated. And I know a lot of other experiences, that's something you can like get past, or you can start learning the language. And I think it was just because there was no like life outside of volleyball that I was just so overwhelmed with it. And I was like, literally, I just want to speak to someone in English, please. Like, But my roommate, well, I was able to a little bit, so that was nice. But that was definitely the hardest thing, for sure.
I mean, I was talking about Tori Dixon with just the language barrier, and she was in Japan, and she was the only American on her team, and 2 players on her team spoke a little bit of English. Her coach spoke no English, and she was just saying that was by far the hardest thing.
Yeah.
I mean, she was saying in practice, volleyball is kind of like a universal language or during a match, but like once you get outside, you just feel absolutely isolated. But it is really nice that you had the roommate.
Google Translate.
Google Translate.
The picture thing, like
Just
you
hold
can
it
literally
up.
just hold it up in the grocery store and stuff. Like that came in clutch.
Yeah, that's great. Tell me some Italian words that you learned.
Oh goodness. Buongiorno. Buonanotte. But it's funny, I woke up one morning and I was like, buonanotte to my roommate, and that's like good night.
Yeah.
She like died laughing. So I've messed up a couple times, but like I've learned some cuss words too, but maybe we'll keep that off the camera.
We'll keep that. That's good, that's good. Okay, so you talked about some of the hardest things and the adjustments with the language barrier. Do you have any other difficulties that you experienced or some easy things in your transition?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because you don't realize the amount of like little things now that you have, like little things like changing your bank account every single year. Like that's difficult. Making when you get there, getting a SIM card, or like changing your international plan, or like I think you just miss so many things initially. You just miss going to the grocery store and knowing your snacks, or you miss being able
or
to
not
read
having
everything.
them.
Yeah, or going to dinner and being like, I want to talk to my server about how I want my meal or something. You just can't. You just like literally just have to like allow things to happen. And at first, that's really overwhelming. I'd say year 2, I was like a little bit more used to like those things. I was like ready for it to happen, so it wasn't such a surprise. But you just miss the simplicity of the way you can go through life, and nothing is like simple when you're overseas until you've done it for 5 years or something. But that was probably the other hardest part. I was just like, I just want to be like back where I'm comfortable. I'm like, it's just uncomfortable all the time, and then eventually get used to it a little bit. But
what about some of the easier things for you?
Easier things for me, I mean, I'm not bad at like going and exploring a new city by myself. Like if I have to go do something by myself, it's not the worst. I'll get nervous sometimes if I have to like speak to someone, or sometimes I'll just like choose not to. I'll just find a way to do it. But you become so independent.
Yeah.
You just have to figure things out on the fly, and it's just crazy the amount of things that I've had to do on my own now. But so you learn a lot, so it's really cool.
You were saying compared to others that it was on the harder side, your first transition. I mean, you've played 2 seasons. Is there hope for your second season overseas? Was that an easier transition for you?
Yeah, for sure. I knew what I was looking for in a lot of different aspects of picking a team.
And what to expect.
Yeah, what to expect. Even the simple thing as like packing. I packed wrong the first year. Like you just don't know.
How did you pack?
I mean, I packed clothes that like I never needed to wear. I needed more t-shirts. I needed more sweats. Like the different kind of spices for your chicken. Like I don't know.
Do you have any advice that you're giving to college athletes that are looking to go overseas about any of your experience, whether that's agent, whether that's the level of play, whether that's your first year in Italy, your second year in Poland?
I think a piece of advice I would give is that dropping into people's DMs, like I mentioned before, or just asking questions to people that you may not even know, just about cities, about the volleyball, about coaches. I think for myself, it was just so helpful because it's just like this little piece of clarity you can have before going somewhere. On the reverse end, I got asked a question about my city, and I loved it. I just like I want that person to be able to have the best experience possible. So I would say reach out to people. It really does help. And also just be prepared to be uncomfortable. It's not going to be like easy.
Smooth.
It's not going to be smooth. You're not going to have your favorite things there, and you're probably going to want to cry. But just if you know that, it'll be easier, and then you'll just be like, okay, I'm prepared myself for this. And honestly, you can't really truly prepare yourself for what you're going to experience. But just know that it's going to be different, and it's not going to be the same. And as long as you know that, I feel like that's pretty helpful in this whole thing.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you so much, Kara, for coming. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.
Bye.
Woo!